All right, guys, we're going to jump right back in where we left off yesterday. Today is day 2 of trig. We talked about finding a missing side length using sine, cosine, and tangent. Number 9 on your notes from yesterday is a word problem, so I wanted to go through that really quickly. So it says Jake leaned a 12-foot ladder against his house. So here's his house. Here's the ladder, here's the ground, here's the 12-foot ladder. Okay, if the angle formed by the ladder and the ground is 68 degrees, so that's going to be the angle formed by the end of the ladder and the ground. My picture is awful. How far from the base of the house, here's the base of the house, did he place the ladder? Here's the end of the ladder. So we're looking at that length there, x there. Okay, so if we're here, down here at the angle, this is the hypotenuse, x is the adjacent side. So looking at your SOHCAHTOA, you're going to use adjacent and hypotenuse, so you're going to use cosine. So you'll set it up as cosine of 68 equals adjacent over hypotenuse. So cosine 68 equals x over 12. This one, when the variable's on the top, you just multiply by 12. It cancels out. So then in the calculator we have 12 times cosine of 68. So that's how we type it in the calculator. My calculator is on degree mode. And your answer is 4.5. And this one actually does have units, so we'll say 4.5 feet. For the word problems, you will have units. Okay, so that is solving for a missing side. You just have to draw a picture. So I'll have you try number 10 today. But let's look at a few more examples. On your second note sheet for today, we have finding missing angles now. So we're no longer finding missing sides. Down here they have both, finding missing sides and angles. So again, we looked at ones like this already. This one, if we're at 39, we will use the opposite side and the adjacent side. So that's going to be tangent. Again, you want to go ahead at the top of your paper, write some old hippie, caught another hippie, tripping over apples. And then bold your S, your C, and your T. So this one, since we have the opposite and the adjacent, we use tangent. Then you write down the degree, and then the opposite has to go on top, which in this case, the opposite's 11. And the adjacent goes on the bottom. Just a quick review from from yesterday. Solving for a missing side, when the variable's on the bottom, the shortcut is you can flip the trig function and the degree with the x. So it will become x equals 11 over tan 39. And then you just type it in your calculator that way. You can only do that if the variable is in the denominator. So we type it in as 11 divided by tangent of 39. So you're going to see some of the problems you use division and some of them you don't. So x equals 13.6 for number 7. All right, let's go back to number 1. These are new. These are different than what we've looked at before. Now, they're not asking for the third side. And if they were, you could just use Pythagorean theorem, but they want the missing angle. So you're still going to figure out from this angle what we have. Do we have the hypotenuse? Do we have the adjacent or the opposite? Well, always draw your arrow from the right angle. This is the hypotenuse. This would be considered the adjacent side to x, to our angle, to our degree, but we don't care about the adjacent side. It's not labeled. And then from x, this is the opposite side, which is 15. So we're going to set it up as tangent. I'm sorry, not tangent. Which one would we use? If we have O and H, opposite and hypotenuse, we're going to use sine. So we'll set it up as sine of x equals, opposite has to go on top, O goes on top, so 15 over 24. So for this one, the difference is we're looking for the angle now, no longer a side. So for any problem where you're looking for the angle, you're going to press the second button in the calculator. And so you'll press second sine, and you'll get that little inverse function. This indicates we're looking for the angle, and then you just type in the fraction. There's no solving like on the other ones. So we're going to have 38.7 degrees. All right, number 2. From our angle, we have the adjacent side now and the hypotenuse. So look up top, which one has A and H? Sine, cosine, or tangent? Cosine is adjacent and hypotenuse. So we have cosine of x equals adjacent on top, so 8 on top over 11. Again, anytime you're looking for the angle, you're going to press the second button, then the trig function when you're missing the angle. And then you just type in the ratio. No major solving here. (43.3 degrees for number 2. Remember, when you press the second, that little -1 pops up. Okay, flip to the back. We're going to look at 2 more problems today. Let's start with the double trig. So numbers 15 and 16 are going to have 2 steps to finish those. So for let's do number 16. So you always want to start for number 16 on the triangle that has the most information. That's going to be this triangle on the right because we have the angle and the side. Our end goal, though, is to find measure of angle W. That's right here. So anytime you have double trig, you always start by finding the line down the middle that both triangles share. Because it's not going to help you to get angle W if you get this side out here. But if I get this side, then I have 2 pieces of information on this triangle on the right. So step 1 for any double trig is to get that line down the middle. So starting at, ignoring the triangle on the left, starting at 25, 15 is considered the opposite to this angle. This would be the adjacent side, but we don't need to worry about that. And then x is going to be considered the hypotenuse for this first step. So, looking at your SOHCAHTOA, we're going to use, you have to pick, is it sine, cosine, or tangent? Which one uses opposite and hypotenuse? And that's going to be sine. So you set it up as sine of 25 equals opposite over hypotenuse, which is 15 over x. Shortcut for when the variable's in the denominator is to flip the trig function and the x. So it'll become 15 over sine 25. And then you just type it in. 15 divided by sine 25. Now, since I'm in the middle of the problem, I'm not going to round yet. I'm going to keep the answer as 35.493. 35.493. That's our middle line. 35.493. Okay, so now double trig, step number 2. And you know this is more of an honors problem, so if you're not getting to these today, don't worry about it. Step number 2 is to use the triangle on the left. So from angle W, we're going to label this is no longer the hypotenuse of the triangle because we're ignoring this triangle on the right now. From angle W, we have the adjacent side, and then the 35.493 is considered the opposite side. So now, anytime you're looking for the angle, you have to use the second button in the calculator. So, first of all, which trig function, ignoring all of this, uses opposite and adjacent? Tangent. So you're going to write it down as tangent, we'll just say, we don't know, we'll just say of x. You can use any variable, I don't mind. Equals opposite over adjacent. So 35.493 over adjacent. Use the second button. So it'll look like this on the second step. We're using 2 different trig functions. You press second tangent, 35.493. You could even keep going, 0, 2 if you wanted to in that decimal. The more decimal places, the more accurate. Divided by 22. So your answer is 58.2. This is where we will round to 1 decimal place at the very end. And that's your final answer. This is called a double trig problem. 2 trig functions. All right, that's your lesson for today. Of course, we have 2 problems where you just have to draw the picture. Like on number 17, we have a ladder leaning against a wall. The wall forms a 90-degree angle with the ground. Here's the ground down here. The ladder, if the foot of the ladder, so here's our ladder, here's the foot of the ladder, is 6 feet from the base of the wall. So 6 will go on the bottom. And what is the length of the ladder? The ladder is always that hypotenuse, that diagonal. Think of a ladder leaning against a house. It's always diagonal. Okay, and then it says it forms an angle of 75 with the ground, so we put our 75 here. Then you pick a trig function and solve. We're solving for a side, so we don't have to use the second button in the calculator on this one. This worksheet's a review of both. Solving for missing sides and missing angles using trig. All right, guys, thank you.